So once again, Judicial Watch steps up and does the common sense step that everyone would expect to be done, which is to request an investigation. This is a story that is an important one because it tells you about the way Washington operates. The deep state, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, the liberal media establishment, they protect their own. And this Congressman, Ilhan Omar, it's been pretty clear for years, has had this issue with being married to someone who almost certainly was her brother, and filing false tax returns saying that she was married to someone else when in fact she was married to this other man who almost certainly was her brother. There are other issues about whether Ilhan Omar is even her real name. And all of this marriage fraud impacts potential IRS fraud, immigration fraud, student loan fraud, and a fraud upon the House of Representatives. And so this story has been percolating out there for several years. The conservative media has been investigating it almost exclusively. Finally, her hometown left-wing newspaper did a big story on it either late last week or earlier this week, raising questions about this issue. And so we're not aware of any criminal investigation. We're not aware of any ethics investigation. So once again, Judicial Watch steps up and does the common sense step that everyone would expect to be done, which is to request an investigation of the House Ethics Committee. And I'm going to start off with talking about this news story that appeared in the Minnesota Star Tribune. And this is the question, this is the headline. New documents revisit questions about Representative Ilhan Omar's marriage history. New investigative documents released by a state agency, I'll put on my disguise here, released by a state agency have given fresh life to lingering questions about the marital history of Representative Ilhan Omar and whether she once married a man, possibly her own brother, to skirt immigration laws. Do I need to read anything else? Of course the House needs to be interested in this. So I'm going to read to you the full complaint because you won't see it anywhere else in the media. And you can listen to it and share it and get the word out because it's going to take pressure from you, the American people, to get the House to move on this ethics process. The evidence is overwhelming that Omar may have violated the law and House rules. And of course, it's urgent that the House investigate this. Let's put it this way. These crimes and these possible violations of ethics rules are so serious. If the House does its job and concludes that she violated the law and committed the frauds that the evidence suggests she did, she ought to be expelled from the House of Representatives. That's right, expelled from the House of Representatives. So the way the process works on the Hill, or the ethics process is supposed to work, and Judicial Watch was instrumental, believe it or not, in working with Nancy Pelosi's office back when she was Speaker first time around to change the House ethics process, to bring a little bit more of independence and accountability to the way the House manages its ethics complaints. Of course, they didn't like the fact there was more accountability, so there's been a fight about that ever since. So you file a complaint with the Office of Congressional Ethics that more or less reviews complaints and makes recommendations one way or another to the House Ethics Committee. Now, the House Ethics Committee also can just take up a complaint immediately, but the process officially has to be begun by sending a complaint to the Office of Congressional Ethics. And a former congressman, Chairman Skaggs, is the leader of the House Ethics Office of Congressional Ethics. And we hand-delivered the complaint the other day. The funny thing is, the Office of Congressional Ethics, their office is in Judicial Watch's office building. So we literally just have to go upstairs to the Office of Congressional Ethics and deliver the complaint. So it's easy for us to do. So this is our complaint. Judicial Watch is a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational foundation promoting transparency, accountability, and integrity in government and fidelity to the rule of law. We regularly monitor congressional ethics issues as part of our anti-corruption mission. This letter serves as an official complaint with the Office of Congressional Ethics. Substantial, compelling, and to date unrefuted evidence has been uncovered that Representative Ilhan Omar may have committed the following crimes in violation of both federal law and Minnesota state law: perjury, immigration fraud, marriage fraud, state and federal tax fraud, and federal student loan fraud. Such violations would also breach the Code of Ethics for Government Service, to which all federal office holders are subject. Any person in government service should uphold the Constitution, laws, and legal regulations of the United States and all governments therein, and never be a party to their evasion. Representative Omar's actions in this suspected immigration fraud, marriage fraud, perjurious statements on her Minnesota divorce filings, and falsifications on her tax returns merit your immediate attention. In the words of investigative reporter David Steinberg, who works for Powerline blog, and he and his colleagues have done the hard work in investigating and getting key documents and witnesses to come forward on this. The facts describe perhaps the most extensive spree of illegal misconduct committed by a House member in American history. The evidence developed against Representative Omar was the result of a 3-year-long investigation in both the United States and the United Kingdom by Mr. Steinberg and his investigative colleagues, Preya Samsundar, and Scott Johnson. It is supported by information gathered from public records, social media postings, genealogy databases, computer forensic analysis. I feel like Robert Mueller here reading this. Computer forensic analysis, unaltered digital photographs, discussions between the investigative reporters and the subjects of the investigation themselves, and information supplied by confidential sources within the Somali American community. Documented-based reporting by Steinberg has developed the following information. Representative Ilhan Omar, a citizen of the United States, married her biological brother, Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, a citizen of the United Kingdom, in 2009, presumably as part of an immigration fraud scheme. The couple legally divorced in 2017. In the course of that divorce, Ms. Omar submitted an application for an order for service by alternate means to the state of Minnesota on August 2nd, 2017, and claimed, among other things, that she had no contact with Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi after June 2011. She also claimed that she did not know where to find him. The evidence developed by Mr. Steinberg and his colleagues demonstrates with a high degree of certainty that Ms. Omar not only had contact with Mr. Elmi, but actually met up with him in London in 2015, which is supported by the photographic evidence. Ms. Omar signed the application for order for service by alternative means under penalty of perjury. The very document that Ilhan Omar signed on August 2nd, 2017 bears the following notation directly above her signature. I declare under penalty of perjury that everything I have stated in this document is true and correct. Of particular importance are archived photographs taken during a widely reported trip by Omar to London in 2015, posted to her own Instagram account under her nickname, Hammy, in which she poses with her husband/presumed brother, Ahmed Elmi. These photographs from 2015 are documentary evidence that, in fact, she met up with Mr. Elmi after June 2011 and before the date she signed the divorce documents in August of 2017, thereby calling into question the veracity of her claim that she had not seen Elmi since 2011. Ms. Representative Omar's potential crimes far exceed perjurious statements made in a Minnesota court filing, no. Her conduct may include immigration fraud because it appears she married her brother in order to assist his emigration to the United States from the United Kingdom. The same immigration fraud scheme may have aided Mr. Elmi in obtaining federally backed student loans for his attendance at North Dakota State University. Mr. Elmy and Representative Omar simultaneously attended North Dakota State University and may have derived illicit benefits predicated on the immigration fraud scheme. The State of Minnesota Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board has already determined that Representative Omar violated state campaign finance laws for improper use of campaign funds. She was forced to reimburse her campaign thousands of dollars. More significantly, the board discovered that the federal tax returns submitted by Representative Omar for 2014 and 2015 were filed as joint tax returns with a man who was not her husband. He was named Ahmed Hirsi, while she was actually married to Ahmed Elmy. Under federal law, any person who willfully makes and subscribes any return, statement, or other document which contains or is verified by a written declaration is made under the penalties of perjury and which she does not believe to be true and correct to every material matter shall be guilty of a felony, and conviction, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined not more than $100,000 or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both, together with the costs of prosecution. Representative Omar's federal tax returns must be examined to determine whether any additional falsifications were made. Mr. Steinberg and his colleagues have engaged in meticulous research and reporting. Over a period of years, they have demonstrated with a high degree of probability that Omar has violated House ethics rules, federal and state laws. We call upon the Office of Congressional Ethics to launch an investigation into Representative Omar's conduct immediately. And it's signed, Tom Fitton, that's me, President of Judicial Watch. This is serious. And the news is breaking, I think, as I go to report to you now, that her current marriage to Hirsi is on the brink of dissolving, being either they're separating or getting divorced, but that's the report. I don't know if that's true or not, but the Daily Mail is reporting that right now. But what a scandal this is. And when her hometown newspaper, her liberal newspaper, she can ignore the Paroline blog, right? She can call them racist for even asking the questions, which is what she's done. But she can't ignore the establishment newspaper in her state. And this is the game she's playing with the establishment newspaper in her state. Sent a list of questions and a request to talk to her siblings and father. Omar declined to do so. Hirsi did not reply to multiple calls, texts, and emails. Social media posts indicate Elmy is in Africa. He did not respond to multiple emails. Omar's relatives could also clear the air, but they have remained silent about her marriage to Elmy. She declined to make her family available for the story. In 2016, her campaign provided the names of 6 siblings, but only their first names, citing their need for privacy. Elmy was not among them. In October 2018, Omar showed a Star Tribune reporter cell phone photos of family immigration papers, but would not share the actual documents. So she comes to the country. She gets married in her faith tradition, according to this report, in 2002 with Hirsi. They break up and divorce in their faith tradition, so they weren't really legally married. They were, I guess, married. I think they were married by a Christian minister, so I'm not quite sure what their faith tradition is. And in 2009, she marries Elmy. Now, why am I asking questions about whether her name is Omar or Elmy? Because the allegation is, and it needs to be investigated, that when her family came to the United States from Kenya, she's originally from Somalia, and then they were in Kenya, in a refugee center there, that some of her family went to the United Kingdom under the name Elmy, and she came in with her father and some siblings under the name Omar, but her name is really Elmy. So that's why I'm asking whether her name is actually Omar. And of course, if Elmi is her biological brother, that would certainly suggest her name is actually Elmi. So this is not about Ilhan Omar's socialism, her anti-Semitism, her anti-Israel fanaticism, her support for terrorist front group Council on Arab-Islamic Relations. That's a front for the terror group Hamas. It's not about that. You know, that's another argument, and I would be critical of her on those issues. This is about whether she broke the law and what the process is to hold her to account. Judicial Watch can't prosecute her. We're a nonprofit educational foundation. We can expose the truth. We can try to get documents indirectly. We'll be doing investigations on that. We can demand other agencies and responsible authorities do the investigations through our educational efforts. And that's what we've done with the House of Representatives. We filed the ethics complaint, and now it's up to the House to tell the American people how they're going to handle this evidence scandal. And I suggest that you figure out whether you want this to be handled or not, and share your views with your members of Congress. You can call them at 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. If you don't know who your member of Congress is, and I understand that sometimes is the case, and it's not the end of the world, you can figure it out and go to, by going to house.gov, and you can see who your member of Congress is. And there are other ways to communicate with your members of Congress other than the switchboard number I gave you. You can call your members' local offices in your hometown and talk to staff there, but you should communicate what your views are about Ilhan Omar. Because if left to their own devices, the politicians in the House are going to do nothing. And I don't mean that just Democrats, I mean Republicans as well. This has been around, this story has been around since she's been in Congress. You know, she's not been a politician that long. I think she was elected to the state legislature in 2016. The story, then she was elected to Congress in 2018. So her rise has been pretty extraordinary to her credit. But if she broke the law to do it and covered up that's really a significant fraud upon the American people, on the voters of her district, and on the House. And is the House going to tolerate this? The Republicans didn't file this complaint. Judicial Watch did. We know how it goes. This is the way the House Ethics Committee is comprised. Typically, the committees in the House reflect the majority-minority ratios, more or less. So in a typical committee, let's say it will be 60-40, 60% Democrat, 40% Republicans. I know the numbers may be different technically, but that's the way it typically works. So there's always a majority of Democrats if the Democrats are running the House, and the opposite, obviously, if the Republicans run the House. But on a committee like the Ethics Committee, it's split evenly. Well, why is that? Well, that's one way to protect their own against ethics, significant ethics complaints. So if no Republican wants to move forward on an ethics complaint, it won't happen. If no Democrat wants to move forward on an ethics complaint, it won't happen. And how is it we get that mutually assured destruction pact to be minimized so that something gets done here? You've got to let your members of Congress know. There needs to be a groundswell of Americans who call their members of Congress and say, we need something done on Ilhan Omar. You know, and if you don't think there should be something done, call them too. I'm not going to get in your way of doing that. But there's got to be pressure put on the Hill to do this. And I think it's just really, it's extraordinary that this woman is given such a platform on all these policy issues without a discussion of this basic scandal. That, as I say, if there is a House ethics process that works and they conclude this information is valid, that she did commit the frauds that she's accused of doing, she should be expelled from Congress, in the least. There's certainly enough evidence for the Justice Department, the Department of Homeland Security, the Internal Revenue Service. Who knows? What else? With the Department of Education, do they investigate student loan fraud? I don't know. The House ethics process needs to work, and she needs to be investigated. And the criminal process needs to work, and she needs to be investigated. And maybe I'm sure there are state laws at issue here still, beyond the campaign finance issue that's already been adjudicated or handled. So it's once again Judicial Watch stepping into the breach, doing some basic work that Congress refuses to do, which is to get an ethics process, an ethics complaint going against Ilhan Omar over these widely and publicly available charges that have been unrefuted by her largely. And so now it's up to you to keep the ball rolling. So I encourage you to do that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.